You know, when you go to a play, you basically agree to this very specific silent contract with the people on the stage. Like, the walls of the set are just painted wood, right?
Right.
The actors are wearing heavy makeup, and they've spent weeks memorizing their lines.
Yeah.
But you buy into the illusion anyway because everyone in the room is sort of playing their part to make the story work.
Right. It's the basic social contract of entertainment, honestly. We willingly suspend our disbelief in exchange for the spectacle. Like, we crave the comfort of a tightly controlled narrative.
Exactly.
We want to know exactly where the story's supposed to go.
Right. But imagine you're sitting in the audience and suddenly, right in the middle of a super emotional scene, a heavy stage light just crashes down from the rafters.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And the painted wooden walls tip over, the actors completely break character, and you see them frantically trying to duct tape the set back together.
While still screaming their lines.
Yes. While still screaming their scripted lines. It's chaotic. It's deeply uncomfortable, and you absolutely cannot look away.
Because it completely shatters the illusion. And that shattered illusion, that really jarring moment where the curated performance violently collide with raw, unfiltered reality.
Yeah.
That is exactly what we're seeing across the cultural landscape right now. I mean, today's culture demands radical authenticity, which means traditional PR spin, it's not just ineffective anymore, it's actively damaging to the people trying to use it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today we are doing a deep dive into this massive chaotic gap between manufactured PR and raw human reality. We've got a huge stack of research here. Everything from leaked prison audio tapes and highly sanitized corporate press releases to incredibly harrowing firsthand accounts of real loss.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to decode the mechanics of public image control. We want to figure out what happens when the carefully curated facades of the entertainment and corporate worlds just completely shatters.
It's a fascinating shift to watch.
It really is. And I want to start by looking at what happens when the ugly truth leaks out, specifically with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Because for a long time, the public narrative surrounding her was one of just absolute victimhood, right?
Yes. I mean, it was an unprecedented redemption arc.
Yeah.
When she was released from prison, she rode this massive tidal wave of public support. Society basically agreed to view her through this lens of, an innocent survivor who had been pushed to the absolute brink.
Right.
She was surrounded by her husband, her father, her stepmother, her stepsister, Mia. It was this picture-perfect fresh start. But recently, leaked prison phone calls between Gypsy and her ex-husband, Ryan.
Oh, man, yeah.
They have just shattered that curated image. It paints a highly disturbing picture of what was actually happening behind closed doors.
I know the public opinion on her whiplashed almost overnight because of this audio.
It really did.
What exactly was on those tapes that broke the illusion so aggressively?
Well, it was undeniable evidence of deep-seated prejudice. In these tapes, Ryan is heard calling himself the most racist person he knew.
Wow.
And instead of pushing back on that, Gypsy's response was essentially to agree. She stated she needed to put on a white hat just like her father.
Just casually agreeing with it.
Right. But the truly vile part was how she spoke about her stepsister, Mia's fiancé.
Andre.
Yes, Andre, who is black. Gypsy is caught on tape making these just casually horrific remarks. She asked Mia why she went on a date with him, telling her, "Why don't you go black? We don't want you back."
Oh, my God.
And she explicitly called him ugly and no good.
Wow. Okay, so when audio like that drops, you can't exactly pretend it didn't happen. The curtain is pulled back. So how does a public figure even attempt to walk that back?
They activate crisis management. And this is where we really have to look closely at the mechanics of the modern apology. Gypsy activated her Instagram account for exactly 24 hours to post a long, drawn-out statement. She admitted to using the language, saying it was cruel to people she loves. But the key phrase she used, and this is important, was this. She said, "I understand forgiveness and reconciliation are not something I am owed. Healing happens on your timeline, not mine."
Okay.
And then, after exactly 24 hours, the account was deactivated again.
I mean, I have to push back on the authenticity of a move like that. A 24-hour activated PR statement. It's like a magician's smoke bomb.
Yes.
You drop the statement, you blind the audience, and you disappear into the ether before anyone can actually ask you a single question or hold you accountable in real time. To me, it reads like a PR team fed a prompt into ChatGPT.
And your reaction, that is exactly why this tactic fails now. The language she used, that healing happens on your timeline, not mine.
Yeah, that part.
It is heavily sanitized therapy speak.
Right.
We have to differentiate between apologizing for the act and apologizing for getting caught.
Right.
When an apology is time-gated to disappear after 24 hours, it doesn't read as remorse. It reads as a calculated brand maneuver. True vulnerability requires standing in the intense discomfort of the public's anger.
Yeah, taking the heat.
Exactly. A ticking clock on accountability just signals that you want the scandal to expire. You're waiting out the timer.
So her apology failed because she put a ticking clock on it. But what happens when you remove the clock entirely and instead you wait almost a full decade to say you're sorry?
Yes.
That brings us to Neutrogena. They recently offered a masterclass in how not to handle corporate PR. This is centered around their former global brand ambassador, Hayden Panettiere.
Right.
Can you walk me through the timeline of what actually happened there? Because it's wild.
It's a deeply tragic situation, honestly, and it exposes the rigid mechanics of corporate self-preservation. So Hayden worked with Neutrogena for over a decade, between 2005 and 2015.
Right. She was like the face of the brand for a generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then in late 2014, she had a baby girl. And in 2015, during an interview on Live with Kelly and Michael, she spoke openly about her struggles with postpartum depression.
And just to be clear for everyone, she wasn't on a press tour to campaign for postpartum depression awareness. It was just a regular interview.
Yeah.
The topic came up naturally, and she honestly admitted she was struggling. And what was Neutrogena's response to that?
They terminated her contract.
I guess I can't even...
Her representatives at the time argued it was discriminatory, of course, but Neutrogena allegedly used a morals clause to sever the relationship.
Wait. I need to pause there. What exactly is a morals clause, and how is it even legal to apply that to a medical condition?
Well, a morals clause is a pretty standard legal stipulation in endorsement contracts.
Okay.
It essentially says that if the spokesperson behaves in a way that brings disrepute, scandal, or public contempt to the brand.
Like a DUI or something.
Right. Think of a high-profile DUI or a massive cheating scandal. If that happens, the company has the right to fire them without paying out the rest of the contract. However, weaponizing a morals clause against a woman for openly experiencing a documented biological and psychological medical condition.
Like postpartum depression.
Yes. That is a massive ethical gray area. It treats maternal mental health as a scandal rather than a health crisis.
That is baffling to me. Truly baffling. So they fired her. And now, years later, following her tragic passing, they are finally addressing it. Neutrogena put out a statement admitting that they, quote, made her feel unsupported in a very difficult time.
Yes. And the timing is what makes this a full-blown PR disaster. For months prior to her passing, Hayden had spoken out about this specific betrayal.
Right.
She noted that not a single executive she worked with over that entire decade reached out to check on her after she was let go.
That is so cold.
It is. The public was already demanding answers while she was speaking out. But the corporation remained silent, hoping it would just blow over. It was only after the tragedy forced their hand that they suddenly pledged significant investments to a community health partner for postpartum depression care.
The disconnect here is just staggering. I mean, let's look at the corporate structure for a second. Neutrogena's customer base is overwhelmingly female.
Yes.
Postpartum depression is an incredibly common experience for their exact demographic. Yet they fired a woman for experiencing it, and the CEO of Neutrogena is a man.
Right.
Are we just seeing a fundamental failure of empathy when male executives control products for women without understanding their lived experiences?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is absolutely a structural failure of empathy. But it's also a massive failure to read the room culturally.
Yeah.
Society's understanding of maternal mental health has shifted dramatically. We are finally recognizing the severe, sometimes fatal realities of postpartum depression and psychosis.
Yes, definitely.
These are often brought into the public eye by extreme, devastating tragedies, like the Lindsay Clancy situation, where severe postpartum mental illness led to unimaginable loss of life.
Right. There's really dark, painful realities.
Exactly. Women are demanding that these realities be supported, not stigmatized. So when a company whose entire financial model relies on women's dollars punishes a woman for a deeply relatable medical struggle, the betrayal isn't just a PR misstep.
It's personal.
Yes. The resulting consumer boycott is a total rejection of a corporate culture that values a sterile, perfect image over actual human survival.
And audiences are getting incredibly smart about this. They see the cold corporate machinery behind the curtain and they reject it. And they aren't just rejecting fake apologies, they're rejecting inauthentic products too.
Oh, absolutely.
Which brings us to the illusion of brand control in the entertainment world. Let's talk about Sydney Sweeney and her failing lingerie line, Siren. This brand launched in January with massive hype.
Huge hype. And it provides a fascinating case study in what I call the vanity brand trap.
Okay, the vanity brand trap. Break that down for me.
Well, the brand had significant financial backing. Sydney's boyfriend, Scooter Braun, is heavily involved, and there are alleged connections to Jeff Bezos' wealth backing the venture, too.
So no shortage of cash.
Exactly. And the stated mission sounded highly empowering. Sydney claims she wanted to build a lingerie brand that, quote, feels like it understands women instead of talking at them.
Which, I mean, that sounds phenomenal on a mood board, but what does the actual product look like? Because the execution seems completely disconnected from that mission.
The execution is exactly where the vanity brand trap's springs shut. The brand is centered entirely around Sydney Sweeney's specific, highly publicized body type. Yet the smallest band size they offer is a 30.
Which is baffling because industry experts note she is likely a 28 herself.
Right. Furthermore, most of the line consists of non-functional loungewear or bralettes.
Okay.
So if a consumer actually has her bra size, the products she's selling wouldn't even be supportive or functional for them.
It's like they built a house with no doors and expected people to move in just because the outside looks pretty. It makes no sense. Why would a brand launch like this?
Because they fundamentally misunderstood the psychology of modern consumerism. In the 2010s, you could slap a massive celebrity name on a mediocre product, and parasocial loyalty would drive sales. People would just buy it because of the name.
Right, the whole influencer merch era.
Yes. But today, a successful brand for women requires profound empathy for the consumer's actual daily experience. Reviewers have pointed out that Siren doesn't invite women in to solve a wardrobe problem. It asks them to purchase a monument to the founder. The product isn't actually the underwear. The product is the illusion of Sydney Sweeney's desirability.
Wow. Okay.
And because the average consumer cannot attain that, and the garments don't cater to their functional needs, the economic viability of the brand collapses. Scooter Braun might have endless industry muscle, but you cannot force consumers to buy a product that actively makes them feel excluded.
Right. So we go from desperately trying to control how consumers perceive a physical product to trying to meticulously control a television narrative. Let's pivot to reality television.
Okay.
Specifically, Khloé Kardashian's new Hulu show, Girls.
Reality television presents a brilliant paradox, honestly. The audience tunes in specifically for the reality.
Right. The mess.
Exactly. The messiness, the unpredictable conflict, the unfiltered human reactions. But the subjects of reality TV, especially seasoned veterans like the Kardashians, they are desperate to maintain absolute ironclad control over their narrative.
And Khloé is taking that control to an absurd, almost self-sabotaging extreme here. This new show focuses on her close circle of friends, Nicole, Olivia, Natalie, Iris, and Malika.
Right.
And right out of the gate, the interpersonal dynamics are completely unhinged. For example, Iris actually set up Olivia on a blind date with Iris's own ex-husband.
Which is objectively bizarre behavior.
So bizarre.
It shatters standard social conventions, which historically is the exact recipe for excellent reality television.
Exactly. You would think a producer would strike gold with that. Like, let the cameras roll.
Yes.
But Khloé, who is acting as an executive producer on this, has aggressively stepped in to sanitize the story. She openly admitted to cutting all the confessional scenes from the final edit of the show.
It's wild.
Her reasoning was that she wanted to stop her friends from talking negatively about each other on camera.
But by doing that, she is effectively removing the entire engine of the medium.
Right.
The mechanics of reality TV rely on two layers of storytelling. There is the A story, which is the polite or passive-aggressive behavior at the dinner party.
Yeah.
And then there's the B story, the confessional, where the cast member breaks the fourth wall and gives the audience their unfiltered, honest reaction to the drama.
Like what they're actually thinking.
Exactly. Without the confessionals, there is no subtext. The audience is just watching a sanitized, flat PR reel. Khloé is trying so hard to protect her friends' images that she is making the show unwatchable.
Unwatchable. And her attempts to tightly control narratives extend to her own life in ways that are just blatantly hypocritical. Like recently at the Hulu event for this show, where she was looking incredibly ripped, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
She made this wild comment about her ex, Tristan Thompson. She claimed she has evolved so much that she wouldn't even care if her own sister, Kim Kardashian, hooked up with him. She actually said, if I give permission, the baton is passed.
That phrasing, the baton is passed, is incredibly revealing psychologically.
Well, what does that even mean?
It implies a sense of absolute ownership and control over an interpersonal dynamic that is inherently chaotic.
Yeah.
Tristan is a known serial cheater who has publicly humiliated her multiple times on a global scale.
So many times.
Yet she maintains him in her inner circle, allowing him in her home, and is trying to convince the public that she has transcended jealousy to the point where her sister could date him.
I just have to call out the glaring hypocrisy here for a second.
Please do.
Because anyone who follows this knows about the massive apocalyptic fallout when Tristan kissed Jordan Woods a few years ago. Khloé scorched the earth.
She really did.
She essentially forced Kylie Jenner to excommunicate her best friend. But now she's playing the cool girl who wouldn't care if her sister dated him. It is the definition of trying to direct traffic in a hurricane.
That's a perfect way to put it.
She is exerting immense energy to project this image of a woman who is completely unfazed and in control of her messy life, but it's an illusion.
It highlights a tragic, recurring cycle in celebrity culture. The deeper the internal chaos gets, the thicker the external armor becomes. They spend all their capital trying to control a narrative that is fundamentally uncontrollable, rather than addressing the actual dysfunction at the core.
But what happens when that armor doesn't just crack, but shatters completely? What happens when the energy required to maintain the facade finally runs out and we are left staring at a real, terrifying mental health crisis?
Yeah, that's when it gets very real.
Because we saw this happen in real time recently with Perez Hilton, also known as Mario, on August 4th. And this wasn't a curated PR scandal. This was a horrific, undeniable human breakdown. What exactly unfolded that day?
The details of the August 4th incident are deeply distressing, and they require us to look at the severe human cost of public life. Perez locked himself in his bathroom, which his sister noted was highly unusual.
Right.
After he stopped responding to her knocks and calls, she forced her way in, and she found him naked, covered in blood, and holding a box cutter. He had been actively self-harming while broadcasting the entire episode live on TikTok.
It is an absolute nightmare scenario, and the immediate fallout is just heartbreaking, especially concerning his 3 children.
Oh, definitely.
They were in the home when this started, and they literally had to flee the house for their safety. Now the family courts have had to step in. His mother, Teresa, has been granted temporary custody. The judge ruled that Perez can have visitation, but it must be strictly supervised by a family member or a therapist. And crucially, he must first obtain a psychiatric clearance.
We have to respectfully synthesize what this tragedy represents culturally. It is the most dangerous possible intersection of severe mental health demons and the modern instinct to broadcast one's life.
Yeah.
For someone who built an entire media empire out of commenting on and often mocking the public missteps and breakdowns of others.
I know, the irony is just dark.
To have his own darkest, most vulnerable moment broadcast live to an audience, it is a chilling reflection of how social media has warped our psychological boundaries. When the mind finally breaks, the platform is still right there, coldly recording the devastation.
It strips away all the glamorous illusions we've been talking about today. It grounds us in a very raw, uncomfortable reality. Which brings me to an incredibly harrowing firsthand account from someone who survived the recent West Hollywood water break.
Ah, yes.
This person lost absolutely everything in a flash flood. Their home, their 2 cars, their entire foundation of stability. Just gone.
And their account of the aftermath provides a profound look into the baseline requirements for human sanity. They described hitting the absolute lowest point in their life.
Yeah.
The loss triggered debilitating depression and required intense therapy. The anxiety about the future became so severe that they had to rely on heavy sleep medication just to force their brain to shut off at night.
They talked about how unnatural it feels to not have a home, to not have that basic physical safety. And in that utter darkness, they turned to their faith, leaning on God to carry the burden of the pain and anxiety because it was simply too heavy for one person to hold. Thankfully, there is a glimmer of hope in this story. They finally secured a new place with a move-in date around September 4th or 5th.
Which is huge.
Yes. But their story, it really forces us to stop and evaluate our priorities. We spend so much of our time consuming celebrity drama, analyzing Gypsy's Instagram statements or the editing of Khloé's reality show, but this story of the flood grounds us. It reminds us of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Without basic stability, a safe place to sleep, the human mind unravels.
It strips away the noise. Whether it's a celebrity desperately trying to spin a scandal, a massive corporation trying to protect its bottom line with legal loopholes, or an individual fighting for their life on a bathroom floor, at the core, it is all a frantic struggle for survival and control in an unpredictable world.
I want to leave you, our listener, with something to really think about today. look at where you direct your consumer loyalty and look at where you direct your personal empathy. Are we too quick to just nod along and accept a polished 24-hour PR statement?
Yeah.
And on the flip side, are we becoming entirely too desensitized to the real struggling humans behind these massive, chaotic headlines?
This raises an important question, and it's a new thread I want to leave the listener to pull on their own. We've spent this whole deep dive looking at how the public judges these figures based on raw, unfiltered moments. But with the rapid rise of AI and deepfakes, we are entering an era where leaked reality can be manufactured just as easily as a corporate PR statement.
Oh, wow. That is terrifying.
If our culture demands absolute authenticity, but we reach a point where we can no longer trust the raw audio or the unfiltered footage we're seeing, how will society ever agree on what authenticity even looks like?
It brings us right back to the theater, doesn't it? We demand that the actors strip off their makeup and show us their real faces. But if we can't even tell if the face underneath is real or a digital mask, the whole contract breaks down.
Exactly.
The stage lights have crashed, the set is broken, and maybe it's time we stop demanding a perfect performance and start dealing with the reality of the mess on the stage.